Welcome back, everybody, to hopefully a full fidelity version of the podcast.
This time I'm just going to be like,
Yeah, we'll just mute your audio stream. It's yeah.
the
This
two
should.
shows together provide clues to a mystery that will be unveiled in Washington, D.C.
There are 9 audio settings that have to be made to make this whole thing work.
Like
And
after an upgrade or whatever.
After
It
some
changes
patch
some of them.
Tuesdays, you got to check them all. And I think I got 8 of them yesterday. And I don't know. I tested a video right before this, and it worked. And so here we are. Everything is fine. This is fine.
Yep.
This is,
Skype.
it was the perfect episode too for having an update fail that screwed up the podcast, because all I was complaining about was how updates in Windows are trash. And
Yeah.
the
And
error
actually,
logging
the funny thing
bad.
is before that, we were complaining because it attempting to upgrade us, was interrupting the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know some people are out there like, I don't know what you're complaining about. I think it's great that Microsoft updates Windows all the time. It is a service.
I'd like to shove that service somewhere.
You're like, just try to imagine that person existing, but I think they might.
I am sure there are people who have no issues ever, and I know they're out there, and I know they will mention it to us, which is fine. And granted, the box upstairs that I use for video editing, no issues whatsoever. The box that needs to be stable has the most issues. So there you go. Yep.
What else is going on in your life, Brad?
Well, I got that. So this happened last night. Paul and I both got this email from Microsoft, said, "Hey, embargoed material. They're going to send it to us." And they sent it to us really late.
Yep.
And I opened it up on my phone for 5 minutes. I'm like, this is nothing. This is what is this? There's like 7 new laptops, a thing about some random modern OS stuff, then IoT, because why not? And
It was literally the blog post. The title talks about edge computing.
yeah,
So yeah, and I did the same thing. My wife and I were watching Chernobyl last night on HBO.
Mhm.
I think you Skyped me and said, "Hey, did you get this?" I switched over to Gmail to see I had gotten it. I opened it on my phone. I literally installed Word on my phone to read it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And of course, I'm trying to look at it on my phone, and I can't really. I'm like, ugh. So I said to my wife, I'm like, I'm sorry, I got to pause the show and make sure this isn't anything important. Literally, opened the computer, did the same exact thing, opened it up this time on a bigger screen I can actually see.
Yep.
And like you, I'm like, computer, modern OS, edge, IoT,
Mhm.
nothing. So I forwarded it to Mehdi, and I said, I'm not sure if you're writing, but if you are, take a look at this and see if you find anything of interest. If not, I will look at it in the morning.
Yeah.
Which I did. And I was like, holy crap, actually. This is maybe their first hint at the thing that will come after Windows 10, which is that, what do we call it? Light OS,
Mhm.
something mysterious future. Everything's going to be great.
Yep.
Maybe.
I gotta tell you, I hate this blog post.
As you should. Because Microsoft has plausible deniability. They can come back and say, guys, we're just talking about Windows 10 here. Except I pulled out, let me see if I can find this real quick. I pulled out one of the quotes, which I believe proves they're not talking about Windows 10. At least Windows 10 as it is today.
Mhm.
The very first thing. He said this modern OS, which, by the way, by the end of the blog post is capitalized as if it were a thing and not just a vague thing, right? Not a modern OS, but capital M modern OS, right? Nick Parker says, will provide a set of enablers that enable the foundational experiences that customers expect from their devices.
Hold on, I want to stop you right there. That is a nothing sentence. That is.
It's by the way,
nothing.
this thing is full of those sentences. If you put this into Word's summary tool, it would come up with a blank document. It says absolutely nothing. So, but he does elaborate slightly. These enablers include, among other things, seamless updates, where updates are invisibly done in the background. The update experience is deterministic, reliable, and instant with no interruptions. That does not describe none of that. And I mean, not even one word of that describes Windows 10. So, I mean, yes, if you want to be really pedantic about it, maybe they're going to be updating the Windows 10 update experience over time to achieve this lofty goal. I don't think it's possible with the legacy OS that is Windows 10. I think it requires a new OS.
Yeah. For whatever reason, like Windows 10 just kind of spazzed on my end. Unusual.
That's weird. It's usually usually works great, especially the Miracast part of it.
But here's the thing that annoys me about it. You could chop out that whole section, and that blog post would make a lot more sense. Because if you're reading this like, oh, here's all these new devices, and then they just it's like the guy's like just stumbles out of the bathroom drunk, and he's like, here's this modern OS that we're going to talk about.
Let me. I know, but let me just provide two other bits of context that I think, again, don't prove, but really point to this notion of it being a new thing. This thing that you especially have been talking about, but we've been talking about. Collectively, the community has been uncovering little details about. One, Lenovo just announced a folding computer that's not coming out till next year, and they did not say Windows 10. They said some version of Windows. Okay, so that's a little. It's a little thing. But we had expected we had hoped, I should say, we had hoped that we would have seen some kind of a build announcement around Light OS. I have heard from a source that there is still a lot of debate going on inside of Microsoft about what form this is going to take, how it's going to arrive, and yada, yada, yada. But, you know that there are going to be Surface branded devices that run this new system. A lot of the language in this post sounds like something out of a Qualcomm PC announcement, right? Microsoft is a strange company. We talk a lot about their inability to communicate. I think this is their first feeler for this kind of thing. Let's see how this plays out in the world. Are people going to freak out? Is it going to get them excited? And that maybe this will help determine how much more they divulge, or even what direction they go in.
Well, see, the nice thing that they did, and this is why I don't like this post at all, is they announced all this hardware. They put these like new devices, new form factors, and all this stuff, and then they announced this modern OS, which is on none of the above items that they just announced. So it's like, here's all our OEM partner stuff. Oh, by the way, we're building something that's not going to run on that stuff initially. It's not going to be just Windows 10 isn't this.
This is a prime example of why they should have announced this at Build. Build was the right context, the right place for that kind of announcement. Vague, futuristic. It's not happening this year. We just want to get you guys on board with what we're doing. We want to start the discussion. We've talked about it. Here's how I'm going to play devil's advocate. This is not a great argument, but from Microsoft's perspective, the Build was 3 weeks ago, something like that, not too long ago, this month, right? Do you think, is it possible that someone inside of Microsoft, someone in charge of the partner relationship with OEMs, the PC makers, said, guys, we can't on May 5th or whatever the date was, 7th, announce we're leaving Windows behind and we're doing this new thing, and then let those guys go to Computex and announce 24 new computers all running Windows 10. That would look terrible. Like, that part of the managing of the message has to do with the timing, because as we discussed this yesterday, you might not have heard this depending on what you were listening to. The PC industry has three major launch timeframes during the year: CES, Computex, which just is occurring, and IFA, which happens in September. And maybe part of the problem is they don't want to step on the things where computers are actually happening, which are this week, which is all back to school stuff when you think about it, and then the fall, which is all holiday sales, right? So maybe once that's over, I don't know, like an October kind of event, if such a thing were to occur, maybe that's the next time they talk about this. I'm just
I don't really buy the argument, because they made it even worse. Like, if they would have announced it at Build, there would have been an air gap between this event, rather than them just bolting on two random paragraphs of nothingness but describing basically iOS. And then
yes, someone said something like that. It sounds like they're describing iOS. That is actually pretty insightful, by the way. And the reason that's insightful is, Terry Myerson's gone, but Terry Myerson is kind of the guiding hand behind Windows 10 for the first 3-4 years, whatever. His goal was to create an ecosystem that was the equivalent of iOS. In other words, he didn't want Windows 10 to be like Android. he wanted Windows 10 to be like iOS. That's why they made, Windows 10s and S mode. And that's, if you think, well, to me, it's more like Android, but I think what they're looking for is that kind of weird combination of quality, reliability, security, privacy, that kind of vibe that you just don't get from Google.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yep. So anyways, we'll see how this one plays out. You can go read the post yourself if you want. Just start scrolling until you see a large block of text with randomly bolded and capitalized words.
I know. I know.
It felt like someone snuck this in last minute to see if management would notice.
It is. You're right. I mean, the beginning, like you said, it's all PC announcements. There's this kind of vague, huh? And then it goes on to IoT, and you're like, wait, what just happened? Yeah. It was kind of, like I said,
makes no sense. But
this could have been presented the right way at Build, and it would have caused no confusion in the marketplace. In fact, I think Microsoft could credit itself by having that conversation early, involving the community, and helping. Letting them and the PC makers and the partners, whoever, guide the evolution of this thing, right? That should be, I think it's going to be like a Chrome OS type thing.
Oh, but whatever, it's definitely going down that route.
Yeah. So, whatever one's opinions of it, I think what it should be is something that, I guess that is my opinion, but in my opinion, what it should be is something that is super easy to manage for businesses and makes sense for them as well. And for individuals is something that is that thing I just said, reliable, secure, simple, but it has to, but the other thing is like the compatible bit. And I think that's always been the problem with the RT's S mode. Yeah. The thing that's Windows, but not Windows has never really flown. And they need to figure that out.
Yeah. I realistically think it'll arrive in some sort of virtualization Win32 technology, but we have yet to see that. I was hoping that's what we were going to see at Build. But anyways, at Build, what they should have done is gotten rid of the Minecraft stuff at the end and just said a new Windows experience is coming. And that was it.
Oh my God, how exciting would that? That was the other thing. Sorry, I had said I had two bits of side evidence that were not really evidence.
I think you used all your time.
Okay. Well, I just want to say real quick. I know from my sources that because I was asking people, the perception here is like Build is kind of boring. Like, what do you think about this? And I had a really high placed source at Microsoft said that they were scrambling to get content for the show at the last minute, and that the reason that fluid framework stuff made it in, and they talked about the distant future of it, is because there just wasn't enough excitement, right? Like the fluid framework for the next year or more is just going to be about collaborative. Working collaboratively in real time. It's not about the removal of apps and, the Ole of the web or whatever we were calling it. Okay, well, given that, this would have been incredibly exciting. No? Am I missing something?
Yeah, there's only 1 billion plus people running Windows, 825 plus million running Windows 10. Let's not give them a bone to chew on.
You could have thrown in some kind of a cloud nonsense, something.
Yeah.
Make it seem like it's part of a plan. I don't know.
But
that's what I would have done.
Anyway, so here we are with word soup and
no, it's there was a great quote from Veep probably in like season 3-ish where someone described this kind of announcement as word-shaped noise. Oh no, I'm sorry. Air-shaped noise.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is.
It's just stuff the mouth is moving and it's like, did he say anything? Was that?
The only thing I think this does is I think this sets up an announcement for Windows Lite. It's got to be sooner rather than later.
You think so?
I don't. And this is just speculation. Why else would they put that in there now? Like, why not do this in July?
I don't see them moving that quick.
But and I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just saying. But it's why on the 29th of May. Put out these 2 paragraphs just crapping all over the hardware that was announced in Windows 10, saying it's not good enough.
Right.
If you're not going to act on it.
The goofy thing is, as you said, none of those computers that are announced are running this thing. They're running Windows 10. But actually, I wrote about this the other day. I find it fascinating that this dying industry, the PC industry, there's all this innovation occurring, right? As this thing returns to its roots as a productivity machine, as a gaming machine, as something like purpose-driven, the cool stuff is happening. We're starting to see
Yeah.
folding screens and dual screens, and Intel has this crazy accordion computer thing that
Yep.
stands up like a robot or whatever. You know, all of this stuff running on Windows 10. The thing we're talking about is like the simple computer for people who are mostly on their phones. You know, it's a Chromebook, right? I'm not saying it can't have all these crazy form factors, but I mean, really, fundamentally, what we're talking about here is a big screen and a keyboard.
Yep.
And look, it's necessary. It's not necessarily as exciting as the Batwing computer thing or whatever. Sure, but yeah, I don't know. None of this made any sense.
You know what is exciting though, Paul?
Mm-hmm.
The cheaper Echo Show.
Yeah,
It's just
that's exciting.
no,
The $90 Echo Show. Actually, so hidden in that announcement is some interesting news about how they're going to handle privacy on the Amazon. I don't want to say her name, but the Amazon platform, the digital assistant platform. They currently allow you to delete, I think, the previous day's recordings in one sentence. And they're going to do what is basically like an incognito mode where you can say, this is not available quite yet, but it will happen soon. You can say, Amazon, whatever the name of the thing is, delete the last recording. And so you can ask it like a private question, like maybe about a health thing or something you don't want to kind of be in there.
Yeah.
And then you can erase it, kind of interesting. Also, they have a privacy dashboard, et cetera, et cetera. So when you think about Google, I wrote about this today. I think privacy is not maybe the word that comes to mind. First.
I don't know why.
And so obviously Apple is aligning against that. Microsoft is aligning on privacy. And now Amazon is too. And whether Amazon can be trusted any more than Google, I think is a gray area at best. But they're doing they are doing the work to try to make that happen.
Yeah. So interesting times, something like that. Hopefully this podcast audio all worked. And to everybody who said yesterday's episode was the best episode ever, words hurt, folks. They hurt. Actually, the best person described it as, I look like the weatherman with my mic off, because I was just a lot of flailing, being very angry about the Windows update process, which ultimately bit me in the butt.
So what it reminded me of is like when you're at an event and someone's on stage with a microphone and they're taking questions from the audience.
Oh,
yeah. A person asks a question, you can't hear it. And then the guy goes, "That's a good question." And then he answers the question without telling you what the question was. So you only you don't really get the back and forth. You only get like one side of it.
Yep.
Oh, well.
Anyways, you got anything else for today, Paul?
I do not.
Good.
I sense I've talked enough.
No, it's fine. I don't. It is whatever. But if you want to see Paul and I talk a little bit more, you can come hang out with us at Shift Happens, which I tried to talk about yesterday, but as we all know, things happened. Or I should say something happened. You can find more information. Actually, there'll be a link down below that happens in the middle of June in Washington, D.C. We will be there. Actually, Mary Jo will be there too. And I'm sure we'll have a meetup in the evening instead of going on a boat cruise. And have yourselves a wonderful Wednesday. Yeah.